Welcome to our Higher Ground Find Your Summit panel. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. It's going to be a really fun hour-long event with Mark, Jim, and a couple special guests. My name is Kate Doby. I'm the Executive Director at Higher Grounds, and it's my pleasure to kick things off. Since November 1st, our team at Higher Ground has been striving to raise awareness around recreation and those among us who have to try just a little bit harder to get outside and do what we all love, be it hiking, skiing, swimming, playing football, fencing, curling, you name it. So we have been honored and a bit awestruck to have the opportunity to partner with former NFL player Mark Pattison and his best friend, former NFL coach Jim Mora, in summiting this hurdle of raising awareness and funding toward this effort. But more on those two a little bit later. This Find Your Summit initiative aligns so well with our core mission at Higher Grounds, which is to enhance quality of life through inclusive therapeutic recreation and education for people of all abilities. We do this through year-round programming for our kids, teens, and adults and our nation's veterans. It is through our unique combination of recreation, therapy, and continued support that we help bridge the gap between disability and belonging. So now to tell the story a little bit better, please watch our new Higher Ground video. It's about 7 minutes long to get us started, and then we'll really get into the evening.
We like to say that Higher Ground is a building block for our participants, really bridging the gap between disability and belonging and giving them the independence and empowerment needed to lead more positive, fulfilling lives using therapeutic recreation as that baseline.
Because she sees that she can succeed and that she finds success and friendship and belonging, she knows that translates into other areas of her life and nothing will hold her back. And it's because she's had the experience of succeeding with Higher Ground.
We are a nationwide organization based here in Sun Valley, Idaho, but we have chapters in Los Angeles and New York. We started as a small nonprofit, really focused on the skiing portion of what we do. So that was the first sport that we ever used to live out our mission at Higher Ground. And that translated into so many different sports and populations that we could serve.
Over the 20-year span, we've created a lot of different programs at Higher Ground that serve different populations. So we have Paralympic programming, we have competitive programming for people with intellectual disabilities, summer camps where we introduce all kinds of skills. We have some programs that are just about leisure education, getting people out and having fun. Other programs are just about socialization.
Being at Higher Ground has definitely helped me be a lot more social and just a lot easier to make a conversation with somebody.
I enjoy seeing participants grow. When I first started with Higher Ground, I used to run all of our summer camps that were 8 through 12-year-olds. And so some of those kids now are 14 to 18 to 20 years old, and they're just so much different than the day I met them. And I think Higher Ground has played a part in that, with just creating better social scenarios for them to grow and learn and do fun things and not feel excluded from being a kid.
I've seen in my son Tyler that he has developed a confidence that he never had before. He is socially coming out of his shell and starting to be his own personality, which is something that even though he had a big personality, he wasn't always comfortable.
25 years ago, people got hurt doing something like mountaineering. And they're like, oh, I can't go do that now that I'm rehabilitated. No, you can do that. It's just going to be a different way.
The trails are great. You know, we've worked with some of the builders to show the width of our bike, and they're able to get in there with their trail equipment and make the trails wide enough so we all can enjoy them.
Our goal is, with what your functional ability is, how can we make you as independent as possible to increase your quality of life?
See where your chin is, kind of like right up over the stem, like that's where you want to be. So let me see if I can move that forward, or we can move this up.
Some really cool trails back in here.
We were able to use those core principles at Higher Ground of therapeutic recreation and adaptive sports and transition that to working with veterans with disabilities, post-traumatic stress disorder, military sexual trauma, traumatic brain injury, so that now we're serving all of the different populations at Higher Ground effectively and efficiently as we can across the country.
I can't do the things I used to no more. Dealing with my PTSD, you got your good days and you got your bad days.
One of my areas that's damaged causes seizures. I have visual disturbances constantly. Post-injury, it's been a struggle. Finding a reason to continue on, finding my purpose.
I was trying to protect myself from all forms of pain, so I wouldn't do much. I isolated. I was told that I was this monster, and I felt like a monster.
For a lot of the men and women that we serve, they've lost this sense of trust with a civilian. Like, they might not be able to relate to what I've gone through. So I think that's why it's so important that we utilize staff who have been in the military. We have volunteers that have been in the military, so they can feel comfortable bonding and opening up with these different people that, understand what they're going through.
Being with these other guys, being with other veterans, getting up, doing exercise, going on little missions, even though they're recreational, and sitting down afterwards and talking about our experiences and feeling that support and that brotherhood and that camaraderie and that caring that we had as soldiers, and that's touches my heart.
What I see most commonly is that they're looking for connection, whether that be a veteran, looking for that camaraderie that they might have lost since separating from the military. It could be those supporters, the spouses, those that they bring along with the program, looking to bond with another individual that might be dealing with the same issues that they're going through at home. And then for our couples, looking to rekindle and kind of reignite their connection and their relationship.
It's been 13 years since Jeff's IED explosion, and this is the first week that I have heard him express feeling joy and feeling optimistic for the first time about our future.
So I think one of the most impactful things is seeing the transformation from day one, kind of the stiffness that's in the room where no one really quite knows what to expect, until day 7 when it's tears and it's hugs goodbye, and that there's truly been something special formed. There's a bond that's created between not only the veterans but the supporters that they brought along, and it truly is this family.
There's just an unspoken camaraderie amongst veterans. And I tell you, I am now going home with 13 new sisters. There isn't any one of these people on the river this week that I don't trust my life with. And for me to tell you that says something big, because my circle of trust is very small.
This is a place of building bonds, building relationships. I didn't know that I had it in me to go higher and higher every time. It was a joy inside, man, that you can't describe, man. It's a healing process. It's a real healing process.
It's important for the participants to understand that while our program is a week long, that we're here for the long haul, that the momentum of change that we started throughout the week doesn't end at day 7 of our program. This is going to continue on for years to come. So our follow-up is key, in that we get to check back up on them and continue to offer them resources so that they can accomplish the things that they want to accomplish and continue this change that has been started on our programs.
From coast to coast, or right here in our backyard, we're seeing the evidence of recreation as a catalyst for therapy and as a catalyst for a better life on a daily basis for all of our participants.
They're so willing to put out their hand and say, I've got you, I've got your back. I can't take away all the pain, I can't take away the disability, but you know what? I can make things possible. I can be a support. When you get down, you think life is really difficult because you can't walk. Everybody runs ahead. You go to Higher Ground and you step into a world where none of that matters.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed that. And I'm back. Okay, first I'm going to go over a couple keynotes and housekeeping items before moving on to the fun stuff. So in the spirit of the giving season we're in and this Find Your Summit Challenge, at the end of the day, this is a fundraiser for our Higher Ground programs and to raise awareness for epilepsy and the millions of people living with disabilities. So here is your friendly reminder that at any point this evening, please text SUMMIT to 855-202-2100 to pledge any amount toward this cause. That number and code are also being entered into the chat box for easy reference. The great news is that as of this afternoon, we have raised over $25,000 toward this effort, which is just shy of $2,000 from our total goal. So we're so close. And we're also excited to announce that $5,000 of that total raised came from a generous grant through the National Football League, which is just more of a testament to the power of sports and the amazing impact that organization has to improve the lives of so many. So as for our technical housekeeping items, we encourage everyone to ask questions of our panelists. Please either use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen or the chat box to send questions. And if you want your chat entry to be visible to everyone, ensure you select all panelists and attendees in the to fields. In terms of viewing preference, in order to see the panelist who is speaking, me right now, in a larger screen, change from gallery view to speaker view in your settings. And finally, for closed captioning of today's panel, please click the red button that says live in the top left corner of your screen, and this will open a new page in your browser where a transcript of today's panel will be translated for you. All right, now to introduce the real stars of the evening. We are thrilled to have Mark Pattison and Jim Mora as our keynote speakers and MCs tonight. Mark and Jim will also be introducing you all to other special members of our tribe, Brooklyn and Emilia, and I'm going to leave that to them. In every facet of Mark Pattison's life, he has scaled personal and professional summits. As a former NFL player and successful entrepreneur, he is currently an executive at Sports Illustrated while he seeks to become the first NFL player to ever climb the 7 summits, with only Mount Everest to go, which is coming up in the spring of 2021. As an added challenge, Mark also plans to scale Lhotse, the world's 4th tallest peak, within 24 hours of summiting Mount Everest, which fewer than 40 people ever have done. Mark, in addition to raising funds for higher ground through this incredible feat, is dedicating his climb to his daughter, Emilia, who is overcoming her own Everest by defeating epilepsy. We are in for a treat tonight, as Emilia is also with us to share her own story and inspiration. Jim Mora is a longtime celebrity in the football world, having held both collegiate and professional football coaching positions, most recently as the head coach of the UCLA Bruins. Prior to that position, Mora served as head coach for both the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. Today, you can find Jim as an analyst for ESPN's college football coverage. While his career speaks for itself on Jim's extraordinary achievements, as we've had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know him at Higher Grounds, it is his philanthropic and advocacy work that are a true testament to his aspirations and his character. Several years ago, Jim co-founded the Count on Me Family Foundation that strives to empower and inspire children who may be economically disadvantaged, living with disabilities, or deemed at risk. Another project Jim and Mark are both proud to be a part of is the Water Boys, which they will tell you more about. We are so grateful that we were introduced to Mark and Jim and that they are both such champions for our shared missions and passions. So without further ado, I hand it off to Jim. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you, Kate. And I'm Jim Mora, and this is my good friend, Mark Pattison. And before we get going, we just want to thank everybody out there for participating tonight and your support for an amazing, amazing foundation, organization, Higher Ground. That video was so touching. And you know, what I love about it is it's so impactful in a positive way. And it's not just a one-time touch, it's a lifelong commitment. And so thank you everyone for being here tonight. The star of the show is this guy right here, Mark Pattison, who Kate just so aptly described as an extraordinary person and a friend of mine for over 41 years now. I was counting that up. I said, I can't believe we're that old. But it's been over 41
We're only 42,
years.
so it's been since we were 1 years old.
We've been through a lot, but you know, I want to start this by asking Mark a question. Mark, I want you to tell everyone out here and tell me, remind me about how we got to the Emilia's Everest. What was your impetus? What inspired you to not only attack the 7 summits, but also to partner with a great organization like Higher Ground and tie your mission into their mission.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Thank you, Kate, for that kind of introduction, and really excited to be here tonight and chat with everybody. You know, it really started a year ago. It was January 3rd, and we had an event here in Sun Valley, Idaho called Amelia's Everest. And before the whole world shut down, the whole goal was to go to, for me, I was going to go climb Mount Everest and go do that. But because of my background, I really wanted to redirect and shine that light onto my daughter, Emilia, who means everything in the world to me. She's been afflicted with having epilepsy since she was 8 years old. She's now 22. She goes to the University of Arizona. We'll get into her story a little bit later. But it was a very successful night. We raised $29,029. And the whole significance of that is Mount Everest is 29,000 feet, 29,029 feet, however you say that. Anyways, we did that. It was a very successful night. Jim and many others that night participated in that. And afterwards, there was a gentleman from Higher Ground that came up to me and he handed me amongst all the chaos of what a great night, enthusiasm of raising the money. And he said, call me. And I want to talk to you. And so I looked at his card, it said Higher Ground. I had no idea what Higher Ground meant. I called him, I met with Aaron and this other gentleman, and they explained. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And I want to learn more. I want to find out more. And I really want to partner with you guys. And so as Mount Everest got pushed out, and we weren't quite sure how this was all going to be, we said, you know what, let's redefine this. Let's redefine what we want to do with our commitment. And so this year, we're going after this new challenge has been that Kate was mentioning called Amelia's Everest, the Lhotse Challenge. So not only am I committed to raising more money to help raise money, obviously, and awareness, but obviously, you know, my main goal is for one day my daughter will be healed. And at the same time, it's a huge motivator for me to go try to do this almost impossible goal of trying to climb Mount Everest, come down and go back up and climb the fourth highest mountain in the world, which happens to be 27,940 feet. So we are so close. I'm so grateful for everybody participating in this, the NFL that has come together to make this happen.
You know, what's interesting in listening to Mark there is he said something that I haven't heard him say very often. He said, impossible goal, but he qualified that by saying almost impossible goal, because as I can tell all of you, nothing is impossible to this guy in his mind. And, you know, you've been through some fires, you've overcome some challenges. You know, we'll go back to your high school days when you're kind of an underdeveloped but a very athletic wide receiver, got a scholarship to University of Washington. You know, you had to make a decision at some point whether you were going to commit in the weight room to developing yourself so you could compete at that level. You did so. And then you go out of practice one day and you're in one-on-one pass coverage drills with some friend of yours who lands on your foot and breaks your foot and kind of derails your career a little bit.
The only time I've ever broken a bone in all my life is from this guy right here.
But you go from that to catching the winning pass in the Orange Bowl. You're in the Husky Hall of Fame. You end up being a 7th round pick of the Oakland Raiders, which sounds like a great thing. But once again, it's this amazing challenge because you're going up a level. You're competing with the greatest of all time. And you have to find your way and you have to find within you to meet that challenge. You've built companies, as Kate said, you're an entrepreneur and you've lost companies. You've been through a divorce. You've transformed yourself. And I want to know, I think people want to know what keeps you going and how did you come up with this thought of finding your summit?
Man, that's a big question.
I know it is, and you're capable of answering.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think that everybody in life, it doesn't matter who you are, and we're going to talk to some amazing people today, but you know, we all have bumps in our life, and it's really how you want to address those, and it's your attitude. And there's a former NFL player that I played with, All-Pro. Jim knows him from UCLA. His name is Jerry Robinson. One day I asked him, Jerry, how are you doing? And Jerry said to me, you know what? Every single day I have an attitude of gratitude. And that means so much to me because it just, when you have an attitude of gratitude, you're taking the light off yourself in terms of your own personal situation, and you're redirecting it on how I can move forward and the great things that I can do. And you can't do that if you're so stuck on your own muck and your own mess, right? And in my particular situation, I have had to reinvent myself a few different times. And going through that reinvention, it's just like, what do you want your life to be like? What is your vision board? And I literally have written down what I want my life to be like.
Yeah.
And going back just on this 7 Summit quest, 8 years ago, I was going through a rough time. It was just like, what is that one big goal that's going to pull me out? What's going to keep me going? And I went on the internet and I did some research. And I found that no NFL player had ever climbed the 7 summits. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to go after it. And that's a big goal that's way out there, and it's still haven't accomplished it. But the real question was, what was I going to do on a day-to-day basis with discipline to actually achieve that goal?
Let me take you back to when you and Theo, this is this chocolate lab, we're walking around the block. You were stuck in a place, going through divorce. And I say stuck because really for the first time, I thought you were stuck. And, you always told me when I've been stuck, action creates reaction.
Yeah.
And you were walking around the block and you were telling yourself, or you were asking yourself, how did I get here? What happened? How did I find myself when I'm walking around the block with my dog and I'm lonely and I don't feel like I have an objective in life like I've always had? And then something clicked.
Yeah.
And, you're a guy I've never, like I said, I've never heard you say impossible. I've never heard you say I can't, but you kind of felt that, but something clicked in your mind one day.
Yeah.
And I remember I've read it, I'm reading this article here. I know it. I'd like you to tell people what happened. Like, where did you go from, how did I get here to?
Yeah. So, so my beautiful chocolate lab that now is Emilia's and she takes care of. Every single night I'd walk around that block, and for a couple of years, and we've all been there. It was like, how did this happen? How did I get there? Just as Jim had said. And I don't know if it was a lightning bolt. I can't remember if it was a full moon, but it was just something that shone down on me one night as I was going around that same block with the same dog. And, I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to change that mindset from how did I get here to what am I going to do about it? And it's when that happened that my whole mindset just shifted in terms of what I was going to do to go after this thing. And I knew I wanted to do something athletic. It was just like, what was that going to be? Which then led to this whole 7 Summit journey.
Yeah, there's a saying that I like, and it's don't let things you can't control you. And I think you reached that point. Mark earlier, he talked about a vision board, and I come over to Mark's house yesterday, and we're sitting here, and there's this piece of paper. I'm going to hold it up here in a second, and I've seen this piece of paper for years now. And everyone thinks a vision board has to be this. Maybe I'm not saying everyone. People think a vision board has to be all these pictures and yarn tied to this, and what is my vision? How am I going to get there? And what's it going to look like? Well, Mark's is simple. This is Mark's vision board. Okay, this is it. It's on a little piece of paper, and tell them not only about your vision board, but where you wrote this and how you came up with it.
Yeah, so this was 4 years ago, and this is like as I'm emerging out, and now I'm on a mountain, the highest mountain in Argentina called Aconcagua. You can only actually say that word if you climb the mountain, I think. But anyways, I was at 19,500 feet, and the top is 23,000 feet, so it's way up there. And I was absolutely confident that I was going to make this. And I was just like, you know what? I think there's a bigger purpose to my life. I think there's a bigger purpose to what I'm doing beyond just me climbing mountains. And as you go around that board, it's, I want to public speak, I want to write a book, and I want to work in philanthropy. And, all these things have more or less come true. And they're not all accomplished, and I'm not an expert at any one of these, but again, I'm chipping away at something that I set my sights on because I was able to open my mind and what can I do? And, going back to Jim's words about action creates reaction. I mean, man, if you can get some momentum, there's nothing greater in life. And this is what I'm so proud to be affiliated with Higher Ground along with Jim and all the other people here. Is that, talk about give back, get to where you're going. Always remember to turn back in line and be humble and kind. And part of that's paying it forward. And that's just, reaching out to the next guy. Like, how can I help other people in the world based on what I'm doing?
Well, I think a lot of people the world at times adopt a victim mentality.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not saying that you had it, but I think you maybe experienced it for a day or two though when you were walking Theo. And I've had this saying, it's not my saying, but adversity turns weak people into victims and strong people into warriors. And I think when you look at that video that Higher Ground made, there were some people that had gone through some things and maybe had a little bit of a victim mentality, understandably so. And then they paired with an amazing, dynamic, upbeat, positive, impactful group like Higher Ground. And that victim mentality turned into a warrior's mentality. And you just heard it in the words that they said in the video. I didn't know that I could do this again. I just had to find another way. The path seemed closed to me. So I took a right turn and then it was open. Maybe it doesn't look like it used to, but it's still exciting. And I think that's what you've been through. You talk about giving back, and I think that that's so important. I think so many people think about giving back as giving money. I think more than anything, it's giving your time, and it's giving your passion, and it's reaching someone in a perpetual way, not just a one-time shot, like I said earlier. And so, Kate mentioned Water Boys, which is another organization that Mark got me involved with, and it's Mark and I had the great honor of going to East Africa and climbing Kilimanjaro. But that was just part of it. The impetus behind that was providing clean water for tribal units in Eastern Africa. And we were able to raise enough money to go to Africa and essentially sink our own well and dedicate it to Mark's dad, who's deceased, and an ex-player of mine, Nick Pasquale, who was killed when he played for me, unfortunately. And so, that was fun. That was great. It was fun to climb Kili. But the thing we always take away from it is the fact that there's thousands and thousands of people in the Serengeti not drinking fresh water because, people like you out there were able to give money, and then we could give our time.
One of the things that my daughter Emilia, my other daughter Claudette, they always bust my chops about. Jim was talking about action creates reaction, and really a lot of times they are great and you've done cool stuff, but how do I get off the couch and how do I get things going? And the one saying that every single day, every single time I see my daughters, I always say the same thing, which is this: it takes a little more to make a champion. And if you start thinking about that, that's exactly, if you want to be great at anything, if you want to accelerate, if you want to be a part of an organization like Higher Ground, if you want to go climb a mountain, people can do those things. You don't have to be special, but you do have to take a little more to make a champion. You have to take the extra effort. Those are the types of things you have to do. And then there's one other thing too, Jim, that I know that we both have had, to overcome different things when you've been let go by a football team, or I've been cut. I mean, I've had it all happen to me. But the other thing is that we all are faced with scary things. And for me, I found where I get the greatest satisfaction in life is when I actually step into the fear. And by stepping into the fear, what I've learned is, you don't go from the little league to the NFL, and you don't go from some small mountain in the Pacific Northwest to Mount Everest, right? You take little steps, just like you're metaphorically going up the mountain. And speaking of a book, I did write this, but it's not for sale. I'm not trying to promote it, but it's called Finding Your Summit, right? And that's what I think. It's not literally the summit, but it's a summit that all of us have to take step by step. That's how you get there, daily steps. And man, it's just when people start doing that, I think great things can happen.
I think what happens to people is at times we always talk about you got to be the best. The word the best, and I think that's scary to people. And so, if anyone remembers Joe Montana, the great football player, when he would sign an autograph, he would sign not be the best, he would sign be your best, and that always resonated with me. That thought of not trying to be the very best there is, but like you said, if you can wake up every day and you can say, you know what, I'm going to be the best I can be today, the best that I can be, that's an accomplishment. That's like what you're talking about. Get off the couch and be your best that day. And that will lead to something. That will lead to self-gratification and personal reward. It doesn't mean you're going to go win an Olympic medal or be a billionaire or anything, but you're going to go to sleep at night going, you know what? I just did my best, man. I was my best today. And I think that eliminate some of the fear factor. Well, I'm not the best. No, but you're your best.
Yeah, and the other thing too, I've been sitting, like, this is a great example, and I'm giving a high profile example here, but I think it applies to everybody and everything that you do. And that is this, is that I remember sitting when I was drafted, and I'm in this room, and it's literally like American Idol. Like, I'm sitting in this huge room with all these players. There was 130 players were sitting in the room, and only 55 guys were going to make the team. And so the coach is getting up there saying how hard it's going to be, and there's going to be people coming, and it's just the way it is, and so on and so forth. And there's all the players from the year before that are sitting there. So I'm part of all this new group. And as he's telling me this, in my little voice in my head, I'm looking around and I'm just going, I don't know who you're talking about, but it's not going to be me. You know, why can't it be me? Why can't I be that person in the Special Olympics? Why can't I be that executive at some big company or have that great job? You know, you got to have that belief, and that is what it's all about. And I don't show many people this, but I'll show you this right now. This little key that I have around my neck, I don't show this to anybody. Now showing I did, but what it says on there is believe. And what I need is daily reminders that I never give up, right? Because that's so part of what we're doing, that whatever your goal is out there, climbing that mountain, getting to where you want to be in life, it's about belief. And I got a question for you. So Jim coached 6 years very successfully at UCLA. And there was a famous coach that came out of there, John Wooden. And he came up with this whole thing called the Pyramid of Success, which has had a major influence in my life. And at the very top pinnacle of that rung, what does that say?
It says success. Success, he defines success. He defines success. He says success is a peace of mind, which is the direct result in knowing that you did your best to become the very best that you could become. So once again, it's not about being the best, it's about becoming the very best that you could become. And then the very part of it is the top of it is competitive greatness, which means being your best when your best is required, or it says on the pyramid, your best is needed. So being at your best when your best is needed. And I think that ties in, I think people always think of that in a competitive way. Oh, my teammates need me. Did I make the shot? Did I make the catch like you did in the Orange Bowl? But I think it can also apply to an event like this or to an organization like Higher Ground is, you know what? You're needed. Are you going to step up? Are you going to be at your best when someone else needs you to be at your best?
And part of it being at your best too is that, and this is, I think, really what it gets down to is your passion. And you'll never be good at anything if you don't have your heart completely into it. And that's about believe. It's about action creates reaction. It's about a little more to make a champion. It's all those things, right? And if you're going to be at the pinnacle and you're going to win the championship of whatever thing that you do, it could be a spelling bee, it doesn't matter. And that competitive greatness, that means you love the process. All of the grit that you have to go through, the grind that all the obstacles, all the adversity, it's about loving that process. So no matter what, nothing gets in your way.
Let me ask you something about that. When you were on Denali the first time, and you're at 14,000 feet and it's 80 below and it's a windstorm and you're sitting there and they say, we've got to turn back. And you have to climb Denali in order to get, your goal accomplished. Was there ever any doubt in your mind that you would attack that mountain again?
No, and I came back the next year and I did it in 2018, June 6th.
It's a mindset, it's a mindset you create through repetitive behavior and repetitive thought process.
So, I think, like Kate, when you showed us that video, it just tugged at my heart. And I just looked at those people and all those kids and those adults, and it was just like, this is a wow moment. And if that doesn't tug on your heartstrings, then nothing will, right? And this next young lady that I want to introduce, I was reading her story and I got we were introduced to her yesterday. Her name is Brooklyn. But, I was thinking about this girl and I saw this video post where she was flexing her guns. And I was thinking, this girl is an animal and she's only 9 years old. You know what kind of animal I was associating her with?
What?
A tiger. You know what kind of tiger?
What kind of tiger?
Bengal. One of those out there. So Brooklyn, are you out there?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, there you are, and with your sweet mom, Allison. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Well, listen, It is so great to have you, because it's people like you. I can honestly say this, and I know Jim feels the same way, that you don't know this because you don't know us, but when you tell us your story, it really inspires us in what we're trying to do and keeps us going. And just like I'm doing for my own daughter. But years ago, you had the unfortunate position of getting this disease called transverse myelitis. And if you would please tell the audience what exactly that is.
Well, it's where my spinal cord, when I was a baby, it got damaged. And it was from C2 to T5, which means if it went any higher, I would have died. But I'm really lucky that it didn't go any higher. And it's actually, I don't think of it as a disability. I think of it as an advantage. So it's like I can use outriggers when I ski, so it's kind of easier. But it's also harder, and I like it.
And you know what, some people, when they call it disability or the disability lane or that sign that's out there when you're parking your car, and I look at really as an ability, kind of like what you just said. And you're so brave. And tell us a little bit, when I saw this video, you and your mom, Allison, we're talking about this crappy-versary. I've never heard that word before in my life until I heard it came out of your mouth. And what was that day like? Obviously it was crappy, but what was that day like?
I actually probably like having it because
we kind of celebrate it.
Yeah. Since the blue ribbon is for transverse myelitis, we dye our hair blue. We're all blue.
Mm-hmm. We use it as a day to spread awareness for transverse myelitis. So every year on the day that she was diagnosed, we have a crap-aversary where we celebrate.
I think Mark's hair would look great blue. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's something that my daughter Emilia, that you're going to hear from a little bit later. So I know that you've been battling like a warrior, like Jim was talking about before, and you've had strong belief. And I mean, it's just, again, it's really inspiring. But tell me some of the things that you're able to do in terms of what is your favorite sport?
My favorite sport is skiing. I'm more of like a winter person because I like sledge hockey, skiing, and
this wasn't until last year when she did ski camp with Higher Ground, and all of a sudden now she's a winter girl and she just couldn't wait till first snow so she could ski again.
And we're going skiing next week.
This week.
Yeah.
And tell us your association with Higher Ground and how they've helped you in terms of, I know they've got this adaptive, and I think there's a lot of people out there that just don't even know what that word means in terms of helping you, manage your way down the mountain. Like, tell us about what the ski looks like and how Higher Ground has come and helped you.
Well, the skiing looks like me using regular skis, but then using outriggers.
Explain what outriggers are.
Outriggers are like canes, but they've got skis on the bottom and they've got picks on the bottom. So you can go like this.
Hold yourself up.
And you can also turn like that.
Mm-hmm. And Higher Ground, we were introduced to them through Idaho, which is like a downhill mountain bike event. And we met Mose there, and he, first of all, taught Brooke some sweet downhill hand cycling tricks.
And I fell down a hill.
Yeah. And then we got to, we were invited to the winter camp that Higher Ground has, which was probably the coolest event we've ever attended. A few days of like one-on-one skiing, and they were super. Brooklyn started in a sit ski where you sit in a mono ski and you go down, and she was like, I want to stand, and
I don't like them.
So they rented her skis, and all of a sudden I was in the lodge and I came back out, and here she comes downhill on two skis standing
backwards.
Yeah. So just really cool group of people that are just fun and have been able to just kind of lighten up her life and teach her all kinds of cool new sports. So it's been awesome.
I love that. And I understand you have, you've named your bicycle. What's the name of your bike?
My bike is named Fireball because it's red and it goes fast.
Fireball. I love that. And it sounds like that's your attitude in life, to go just crazy. Now, is it true or is it not true that you have your eyes set on being in the Paralympics?
Yeah, I want to be in the Paralympics probably because there's a lot more sports you can attend and you can win races.
She likes to win. She's kind of competitive. So.
You're a winner, huh? So tell me what the process is for you in getting into the Paralympics. Like, what kind of hard work do you have to do?
I have to work out to get my muscles.
So how do you work? Tell me, do you lift weights?
Yeah.
You do? Let me flex your muscles, because I've seen a picture of you flexing your muscles. Flex your muscles for us.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
That's insane.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. Listen, we look forward to skiing with you here in Sun Valley. We hope that you come over. I think you're in Idaho here somewhere, and it's going to be a great event, and it's going to be a highlight of my year if I get the opportunity and Jim gets the opportunity to ski, next year coming down the mountain. Okay.
We'll probably be behind you because you're so fast. Probably not next.
Thank you, guys. We're looking forward to it. Huh?
Yeah.
Allison, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
Hey, Kate, can I ask you a question just for everybody out there right now? This is for Kate. We saw the inspiring video. We listened to Allison talk about the way that Higher Ground has affected Brooklyn and their family. What ways, besides just donating money, can people in the community get involved with Higher Ground?
Oh my gosh, countless ways. But I'd say the first one that pops into my head is the donation of time and services, like you guys were talking about earlier, is truly the lifeblood of Higher Ground. So anywhere from the two of you who have done so much for us to, I'm sure Brooklyn and Allison met a tremendous number of volunteers when they were up here last year, but they are really what keeps us ticking at Higher Ground. Last year we had over 20,000 hours donated to Higher Ground in volunteer services, be it from ski instructing to fly fishing guiding to making meals for our participants when they're visiting, to helping with our big events every summer. So coming out for a day, or we have some volunteers who ski with us, 50 days throughout the season. So that's huge. Anything from our amazing partners in Sun Valley, also in our New York and Los Angeles chapters, who really make our programs happen, from the vendors, the goods that they donate. The opportunities to get involved are unlimited, and starting with our website, which Kirsten running the chat box can hopefully put in there. She already did. She's way ahead of me, but lots of opportunities to get involved. And I just listed a couple of them. So thanks for the question, Jim. That's a great one.
Well, at this point, I want to bring in the namesake of this event, your daughter, and fortunately my goddaughter, and that is Amelia Patterson. So Emilia, I want to welcome you to the stage.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Look at this beautiful young lady that I've known since the day she was born, and I'm so proud of. And, we talked a little bit about, when you were 8 years old and you started to have those seizures, and I remember them well. And I remember some of the things that it affected in your life that people probably would never think of. I remember, I get a little emotional thinking about it because you've overcome so much, but, standing on a stage at your elementary school in Laurelhurst to do a production and having a mini seizure and, falling, to have another incident, to not being able to ride a bike, to it affecting, just things that a lot of us take for granted because you're never sure when, a seizure might hit and what magnitude it might hit, what type. And so you've had to overcome so much. And yeah, you've been down on occasion, but much like your dad, you don't stay down, you bounce back. And I want you to just kind of talk about your journey and talk about how you've been able to maintain this positive, upbeat attitude where now you're this, great student at University of Arizona, getting ready to graduate and go out into the world.
Yeah, well, as you said, I've had seizures since I was 8 years old, and at first it was really bad. I would have 50 seizures a day, and I couldn't go to when I was in 5th grade, I couldn't go to class because it rose to 60 and then 70, and it was getting out of control. And as I got older, I learned that the way to lower them was changing my mindset and changing the way I feel about things, react. But I was so young at that time, and so trying to learn those skills that most adults learn later on in life it was a really difficult time for me. But I'm grateful that I had the opportunity, because I don't know who I would be today if I didn't have seizures, because I've had my seizures shape me. I haven't let them define me in a bad way. I've let them define me in a positive way, to where I'm proud of like who I am today, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished, and I haven't let my seizures take control of my life. I've taken control of the seizures, and even though I still have them, I went from having 70 a day to going to 3 months without them. But I had a small setback in college. I'm still in college, but this was 2 years ago. I told myself I wasn't gonna get emotional. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, this part's just really hard for me to talk about, but I think it's important to talk about this. So I typically have petit mal seizures, which is where I just zone out and I don't fall on the floor or anything. But sophomore year of college, I was stressing myself out with school. I wasn't balancing out my life correctly, and I started having grand mal seizures, to where I would fall on the floor and shake and get out of control, and I went to the hospital each time. But I was able to overcome that. But there was one seizure where I had landed face down, and I wasn't breathing. And if my roommate had not walked out of the apartment at the time that she did, I wouldn't be alive, because when the paramedics got there, I wasn't responding for 45 minutes. And after that, when I was in the hospital, I was just so down. But I chose to not let that make me give up, and that was a really hard time for me, because knowing that I nearly died, it was the hardest moment in my life. And it's really hard for me to talk about that, and I actually don't think I've actually ever talked to anybody about that, but I think it's important for the people on here that are listening to these inspiring stories and conversations, because I've chose to keep going, and it's encouraging to be a part of Higher Ground, because that's what they're all about. And that's what Higher Ground is, just such an inspiring organization for people with disabilities. If like my dad said, it's not really, considering a disability, but it's just, I'm really grateful to be a part of Higher Ground, and the organization is extremely inspiring, knowing everything that you're doing. And I'm just really, 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 like I said, grateful to be a part. Yeah.
We're grateful for your words, Amelia, and we're grateful that you have always decided that you were going to control your life, not let epilepsy control your life. And I think your words are a tremendous and great and powerful lesson for anybody that's listening. And you've made choices and you've taken control.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who you are. That's who you've always been. I've always seen that.
And I've had to make certain sacrifices that in my life, and I haven't been able to do things that other people have done, but in my entire life, just growing up, I have learned to be okay with that because there's stuff that I can do. It's not just focusing on, oh, I can't do this. That's all my life is about. Like, okay, I can't do this, but what can I do? And then learning how to do those things, like for example, sports, even if I would have a petit mal seizure while I was playing sports, I still would keep playing and act like it didn't even happen. And when I worked, at the front desk, somebody was talking to me and I had a seizure for like 5 seconds, and they thought I was ignoring them until they got upset. And I was like, no, sorry, I was just thinking. So yeah, I've learned how to play it off, and over the years, I've learned to have a positive attitude about it because there's a lot of things that I can do. And I am grateful that I have petit mal instead of grand mal every day. Even because having grand mal seizures every day that would be very hard. That'd be very hard. So
how do you feel, Emilia, your dad taking up this cause and, raising awareness and money and making this amazing journey in your name, Amelia's Everest?
I mean, it makes me so happy because he's so supportive towards all of this, and he's really has a great outlook on just, life itself. And then he gets involved with organizations that have to do with helping kids and adults with disabilities, and I have a disability, so it just means a lot to me that he's supporting that and getting involved with that, and I'm really lucky to be a part of it. So
I don't have a disability. Like Brooklyn said, you have an ability.
Yeah.
Your
See,
ability
there we go. Yes, ability. Yeah. That's yes.
Let me ask you, and I'm going to say thank you so much for sharing that story for the first time and opening up your heart and saying the things you did. And Mark, how does it make you feel here to hear your daughter say those things about herself and then about you and your influence on her?
Well, I've lived this every moment, and so from a parent, there's nothing more terrifying than when you get a call and you hear that your daughter's turned blue and she's on her way to the hospital.
I was with you,
it was awful. But on this side of the page, Emilia is somebody that has overcome a tremendous amount of odds. And Brooklyn, like, this is for you and the things that you do down the road. But Emilia has gone off to college, University of Arizona, hard school to get into. She got a D1 scholarship in volleyball, to go play back on the East Coast. She's in a sorority. She's got all these friends. She continues to just blossom. She worked for 6 months as an intern for Sports Illustrated, producing videos. I mean, her life just keeps getting better and better and better. And out of this Amelia's Everest that we threw January 3rd at the Bigwood Church here in Sun Valley, Idaho last year, there was a gentleman that came forward that turned out to be a former board member of the Epilepsy Foundation. Yeah. And he turned us on to a doctor at USC who, since we started this whole process, some medicines have changed. And now Emilia is on a different combination of meds, which has reduced some of the seizures. And so as Emilia started the whole conversation by saying, and this is the thing as a dad, so proud you've got 4 kids, is that she is now taking control of these seizures. And so the trajectory now is not like out of control anymore. It seems like, can definitely see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that is, again, when I'm on Everest this next year, spring of 2021, I will for sure encounter some difficult circumstances. There's no question. And it's going to have to get down to that gut check. And one of the things that helps me continue to propel forward is when I can reach back pull that strength from Amelia to help me, like, you know what, if Emilia can do this stuff, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep going and go to the top and get back down safely.
I mean, how cool that you've got this almost 60-year-old guy here who has this attitude of, I can't, doesn't exist in my world, to his daughter who's 22 says the same thing, to Brooklyn who's 9 who says the same thing. You know, it's a mindset, it's an attitude, it's a way of life. It's absolutely amazing. And thank you both, and Allison as well, for participating. Your words were extremely powerful, more powerful than anyone could ever imagine. Kate, you know, I'm hopeful maybe some people have some questions for us that Mark or I or Brooklyn or Emilia could answer.
Yeah, we sure do. Thanks to all 5 of you who were you just made up a wonderful hour for myself and everyone who's been attending. I think the 5 of you should write a book with all of your amazing phrases. You should go in on it together. Anything from attitude of gratitude to the warrior's mentality to Brooklyn's advantage and crap-aversary, and certainly Emilia's focusing on what you can do. I can't tell you enough. Everything you all just talked about really sums up so much of our mission at Higher Grounds and is inspiring to everyone. You know, I always say we're the lucky ones at Higher Ground for being able to be a part of our participants' lives, and you all highlighted all of that perfectly. So thank you. And we do have some questions. And before we get to that, I have a few, and please continue to type them in if people have more, but I would be remiss in not mentioning again, also in your chat box, that that our fundraiser is still going on. We're closing that gap, and we're getting so close to hitting our goal, so that the Amelia's Everest Lhotse Challenge, it's already a huge success in our book, but we're going to hit that number no matter what. But thank you all for helping us get there, all of you who are participating.
I think we're at least at Camp 4, right? Just below the summit?
Yeah, exactly. We want to get to the summit. We're going to hit that. Exactly, right. And yes, exactly. All right. Our first question is well, Mark, actually, it's the perfect segue. Do you have a challenge lined up for after summiting Mount Everest in Lhotse? So what would be your next summit?
Absolutely. Plan to go to climb a mountain called Karsten's Pyramid. So it's going to be crazy in the South Pacific. It's going to be my next challenge. I also have another thing out there, and I didn't realize I was well into this, but I also want to climb the highest mountains in every single state. I've actually done the 4 hardest ones: Denali, Mount Rainier in the state of Washington, Bora here in Idaho, and Mount Whitney in California. So I don't know if it's all downhill from here, but certainly the hardest ones are out of the way.
Totally. Well, being a native Floridian, if you need to conquer, I think it's Mount Dora at 300 feet in Florida. I think you got that one. No problem.
Well, you open the door, tap your foot, and off you go.
Exactly. All right. So on to Jim. During this Finding Your Summit campaign, what are you doing to go above and beyond and challenge yourself?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, Mark and we put out a video probably a month ago. And I think mine was 3 hours a day, right, of going uphill. And
that was mine.
And then I have a little matching campaign that I did. So, you know, I just try to keep up with this guy. I try to nip at his heels when we're going uphill, so that when he gets to Everest, he's ready to go. Sometimes it probably takes energy for me to nip at his heels and for him to be leading the way. We have this, he and I have this, what I think is just the greatest setup in the world. And that is Mark leads uphill and I lead downhill.
Tailwind on the way up. Very smart. Yeah.
That's right.
That's great. Okay, this is to either of you, and it's about your time following the NFL in your respective roles. What was the hardest part transitioning from those rigors of training and that dedication and just fierce commitment to the NFL into the daily life of not being a professional athlete or coach?
Well, I'll start as a player. It was really difficult because, people don't think about it this way, but you really go from, I redshirted a year up at the University of Washington in Seattle. And so I played 5 years and then I played in the NFL. So it was really 10 years. I mean, think about a decade of playing sports at the highest level. And back in the day, the NFL didn't have any life after football programs. And so you literally went off a cliff. And then it's like, now what? The NFL has done a phenomenal job. Now, there's a gal named Tracy Perlman who's really led the way as part of the NFLPA of coming up with programs in transition on coaching, on broadcasting, on finance, on health and fitness, and all these different things that you can now get involved with, and there's resources to help back, a little bit like Higher Ground, but in a different way. But it's just really helping transition period that is out there. But for me, I mean, it was 2 years of hell before I kind of figured out, because I knew I wanted to do something great, and I just had to figure out how I channeled that same energy and then put it over here. And it was just trying that gap of what is that going to be. I finally figured it out, and I'm in a good spot today. But for sure, it was a hard transition period.
Yeah, and I coached for 35 years. Coaching the NFL doesn't have the same programs they have for players, for coaches. When they fire you as a coach, they just fire you and you're on your own. There is no life after coaching program for coaches. That's something they do for players. So for me, it was to just take a step back, regroup. I got involved with broadcast so I could stay close to the game. And then this time that I stepped away, which was 3 years ago at UCLA, it was moving to Ketchum, Idaho, and enjoying life and going uphill and going downhill and skiing and hiking and biking and fishing and really trying to enjoy life. And it's emotionally, it's hard at times because you're so used to the challenge and the stress and the competition and being at the highest level of your profession. But for me, it's just been about, like Mark said, rechanneling that energy or that focus into something that is equally fulfilling.
Like
ESPN. Yeah, like ESPN, but also Higher Ground. So we're just so grateful that your paths led both of you to our mission. And we talk about that so much, Jim, is just finding that new purpose. And it's going to look a lot different, but it can be equally, if not more so, fulfilling, whether or not.
Brooklyn, and I listen to Emilia, and it's I can't.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, we have a question for Brooklyn and then one for Emilia. So thank you guys in the chat room for participating. So Brooklyn, do you have a role model or someone you look to for inspiration?
I look to my twin sister, Bella, and she's my little sister. And she's more of an inspiration because she follows me during triathlons, and she just if I'm done with the triathlon, she'll grab a paper towel or whatever and she'll go. It's funny.
She's your number one fan, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. That's a great one. Thank you, Brooklyn. And then Emilia, what's one thing you look forward to doing, learning, or overcoming once this crazy pandemic is over?
Well, as of right now, I'm currently pursuing my dream job, which is working to be a music supervisor. And so I'm going to be doing that and even until the pandemic is over. And in addition to that, I'm also going to continue to learn how to stop my seizures, just educate myself on more ways to control my brain and my thoughts and all that. But one thing I'm going to do once the pandemic is over, sorry, Dad, but I'm going to go bungee jumping, and it's going to be a blast. It is going to be so fun.
Hey, Kate, you got that one.
Totally. We're going to have to add bungee jumping to our repertoire here at Higher Grounds. Amelia, it's on tape. Now you have to do it.
Yeah, I will.
That's awesome. Oh, you guys, this was such a pleasure. It was my honor on behalf of everyone at Higher Grounds to talk with the five of you. Mark and Jim, thank you so much for the time you dedicated to this, and Mark for the Lotse Challenge and Amelia's Everest that you're undertaking, and for inspiring so many of us, not only on the call tonight, but since we kicked it off last month, and the great words we've been spreading since we really started working together, and that will continue until your climb and well beyond. So thank you all very much for your time and for being a part of our evenings and well beyond, and especially during a time like this, for just inspiring us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really
Everyone, thank you so much for logging on to this.
Yeah, thanks to all of you who attended. And yep, there's some great notes in the chat box to remember to get involved in whatever way. I love what Jim brought up. Just, it's not always about participating monetarily, but just get out there and find your own summits, and just be a part of all the wonderful activities and inspiring events that are happening around us. So everyone have a very happy holidays, and have a wonderful evening. Thanks so much again. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, Amelia. Thanks, Brooklyn.
Thanks, Allison. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Mark.
Guys.
Thanks, Aaron.